ScienceLogic is a fundamental tool that's traditionally been used by the operations center within service providers and enterprises alike. And what's dramatically changed over the last couple of years in particular is this recognition of two fundamental things. Number one is, how can that spend on an operations tool on the back end actually be utilized to create new services and new revenue opportunities for the service providers? And I think that's a massive change. And the second is really the change that's taken place, which Dave can elaborate on, in terms of the old tools really not making the leap anymore to this new era of cloud computing that all these hosting providers are moving to.
Yeah, to that point, we started 15 years ago with a client-server compute architecture. We're now moving to a cloud compute architecture. Prior to client-server, we were in mainframe. The tools that were made to help manage mainframes really didn't cross the chasm managing client-server compute architecture. We see the same thing all over again 15 years later. There's a number of reasons why. Multi-tenancy, IPs are very fluid. There's infrastructure that lives in many different geographies. Compute is distributed in ways that it's never been in the past. You don't go to one rack to one IP and know that the server's always there. So that changes the model. The paradigms that we used in the client-server world don't quite work in the cloud compute world. Thus, if you don't have a tool that starts with a multi-tenant foundation from the very beginning, not built for the enterprise, but built for a service provider community, you can't build a great product on top of that.
First of all, let me start by saying that I think the enterprise have been this latent beast that we've all been waiting for, where this larger wave of opportunity for cloud computing has now finally entered the mainstream. We're getting more and more requests from enterprises and even the federal government who are asking the question around cloud computing and what cloud computing resources are out there in the world. And whereas that really was more around the type of technologies such as virtualization, I think there's a recognition now that it's really more than virtualization. It's what kind of support and services and tools and technologies and visibility can be given to me as an operations person within a large enterprise that I can now hand off to a hosting provider or service provider of some kind. And that's fundamentally changed, and it's changed the volume, the capacity, the need for control that hosting providers and service providers have in the market today. But it also is a massive opportunity to get into the enterprise sector, because the enterprise obviously represents a big growth opportunity for all of them that they've been waiting for, but you have to be able to present your services, which have traditionally been fairly plain vanilla, in a very new way to service provider. And that means new packaging, that means new service levels, that means new control and visibility. And that's really where we believe at ScienceLogic that we play a fundamental role for the hosting providers, is to be able to provide that manageability, that control, that visibility to their enterprise users at a service level functionality, not just at an asset level functionality, because it's all about the services that you as a hosting provider can now present to the enterprise.
And I think to add on to that, the wave is coming. People are looking for more efficient compute, more robust compute, more resilient compute. Service providers have the goods to provide to the marketplace. However, it's not just security that's preventing this wave from actually being created and moving infrastructure from private data centers to public data centers. It's also about transparency. If an enterprise customer has really sophisticated tools and they look at potentially outsourcing that infrastructure to the service provider, if the tools aren't comparable, where is the comfort level? It's not going to be high. So the more sophisticated the enterprise customer, the more sophisticated the underlying tools, the more transparency you need to provide to the customers, and really think of things as a service. How are we going to manage a service that's comprised of many different components, application layer components, middleware components, database components, network components, raw compute components, infrastructure components that deliver all have to work in unison to actually deliver impeccable service quality. If you can't show the customer the complete stack of how it's behaving, will their comfort level be there for them to push that workload to you? It may not, but if you have that, which is what ScienceLogic provides, the chances of getting that customer to trust and be confident and comfortable with your capabilities on their behalf is much greater than what you have today. That's a great question. It's really both. So we provide a tool. That tool helps you operate your infrastructure efficiently, but it also has a web interface that allows you to present that web interface to a customer. Some of our customers have portals. For those customers, we have a RESTful API. It's a fantastic API. Literally everything in our data store that you can think of and see through the interface, you can access through the API. And so that API can become not just an interface for your portal, but for the customers that are getting really aggressive, service providers that want to match or beat Amazon. How do you do it if you don't provide an Amazon-esque API to your customers who may want to pull that information themselves against an API? We provide that extension, so you don't have to build it yourself. You deploy our product. It actually helps you run your operations, helps you deliver new managed service offerings, but also extends that best-in-class RESTful API to your customers who want to consume information that way, so that you look like you're closer to that level playing field with Amazon that you'd like to be.
So I think one of the things we've been very cognitive of and worked very closely with a lot of our service providers is the fact that if you're going to go after enterprises and new customers, they're far more educated and aware than they ever were in the past. And you have to have something that really dazzles them, something that really wows them. The past, something
a little bling,
a little bling. That's right, and something more than even this junky watch will get us. But at the end of the day, it's all about creating the perception, more than the perception, sorry, the ability to visualize everything that they're getting from you as a service in a very dazzling manner, right? And that dazzle has really been missing a lot of times from the service provider industry. The portals have been fairly plain and fairly functional in their aspects, and what we bring to the table is a huge amount of dashboard dazzle. We're able to help visualize a lot of the services, the power of the services, really all of the fundamental depths that service providers are bringing to their customers from a service perspective, from an uptime perspective, a reliability perspective, so on and so forth. And I think moving beyond just the dashboards themselves is the ability of fundamentally our platform as essentially an analytics platform to create extremely rich data that can be used in very intelligent ways. And I think that intelligence is what's coming through in the dashboards that customers are able to see. We have the best dashboards in the industry, full stop. But as soon as you are able to utilize the API that Dave was talking about to make more intelligent decisions around your provisioning, your orchestration, your billing, and so on as well, that really makes the entire platform far more holistic than we've ever seen in the industry before. So we really are the glue that pulls together this plane, if you want, that pulls together all of the underlying infrastructure, which is getting more and more complex to manage as we go forward.
And that's really the key. When you think about creating bling and really cool dashboards, you've got to have the data. If you don't have the data to do the analytics against, then you're not going to have anything that's compelling to the end user. We collect from Nagios agents, we collect from Hyper-V API, from Zen API, from VMware API, from Cisco equipment, from all the Microsoft COTS applications, any kind of applications, a very open platform. It has to be open to talk to almost anything that's connected to your network, any custom application. We bring it all into one data store, one common data format that we can then bring rich analytics against and really cool dashboards. If you don't have the raw data, you can't build the great dashboards.